ICE is planning to ramp up enforcement operations, including deportation operations, targeting Haitian migrants as early as this week.
So now that 350,000 have had their temporary immigration status end, it's time to obey America's laws and leave the country. But as you can imagine, in sanctuary cities like New York, local officials and activists are telling people not to go anywhere. But because staying in America is now illegal, the border czar says resources will be deployed to enforce the law wherever there's law breaking in a way never before seen in our country.
This move comes as more than 300,000 Haitians lose their temporary protected status, also known as TPS, along with their legal work permits.
The Department of Homeland Security taking to X today to remind Americans that TPS is meant to be just that, temporary. Those with terminated TPS have two options: leave or be removed.
I made clear to the president, as I've made clear to anyone, the vital importance of TPS. Again, TPS is something that is granted also in recognition of the conditions of anyone's home country. When we are talking about the conditions in Haiti today, they are very similar to the conditions that led to the authorization of TPS.
The fact that there might be pockets of Haiti where there's higher crime rates, guess what? There's pockets of Chicago with crime rates just as high. There's pockets of cities like St. Louis with crime just as high. Pockets of Los Angeles, crime just as high. It has never been the case that having communities that have high crime rates is a basis for asylum. Never has been, never will be.
Here's a list of updates to countries and their TPS. And if you scroll down to Haiti, you'll see that a year ago it was announced that this was expiring. And nobody against this decision dares acknowledge that the original expiration date for temporary protected status regarding Haiti was over a decade ago, or that the word temporary does not mean permanent, which reveals what's really going on here. Because back in 2010, this status was offered to people from Haiti because of a massive earthquake that displaced residents, and it was supposed to exist for a period of 18 months. But over the past 15 years, it's been extended time and time again, which shows the incredible compassion of the American people, yes, but as critics say, directly challenges the sovereignty of our country and our laws. Because as compassionate as it is to help somebody in their time of need, if a temporary program always ends up being permanent, it stops being humanitarian aid and it becomes something else. And that would be a workaround for America's immigration system. And that's why the same people advocating for a wide open border find themselves rallying against the expiration of temporary protected status, no matter which nation it concerns, because they don't like the fact that these programs have an ending at all and they want them to stick around forever, which exposes how these laws have been twisted, using compassion to instead drive what many say is mass migration. Which brings us to the real reason this showdown over temporary protected status is happening right now. America has this ability to be compassionate, and the American people have that desire, but they're gonna lose that ability if every time we have a program like this, it ends up lasting forever and never expires. But our last president conveniently allowed this specific program regarding Haiti, which was extended over years and years to finally end during President Trump's second term right before the midterms, which reveals the political weakness of our past presidents who did not care to enforce our laws and instead kicked the can down the road, so to speak, making it harder to enforce them, as we're now seeing the Trump administration attempt to do under conditions that did not exist in our country 10 years ago. And now, as you're about to see, our country's full of politicians who either don't or won't understand the true purpose of a temporary humanitarian aid program. Look at this.
You know, I spoke to the president prior to that, and I made clear to the president, as I've made clear to anyone across the city, the vital importance of TPS. Again, TPS is something that is granted also in recognition of the conditions of anyone's home country. When we are talking about the conditions in Haiti today, They are very similar to the conditions that led to the authorization of TPS. We are talking about a place that the United States government is recommending to Americans to not visit.
This is flat out incorrect. Now, yes, Mayor Mamdani is a self-proclaimed socialist. We all know that he doesn't like ICE, and here he is running a sanctuary city, but the conditions that he just described don't qualify anyone for temporary protected status. The U.S. has travel warnings in parts of Mexico. We're not extending temporary protected status to Mexico. But as you're about to see, this has been the entire justification for extending this program, and it's been fraudulent this entire time. Look.
Yeah, so yes, Haitians live in Haiti. It's not our position that Haitians should leave Haiti. I mean, it'd be crazy for us to say that Haitians couldn't live in Haiti. It's their country. Of course Haitians should live in Haiti. There's no viable asylum, or to use a technical term here, CAT claim or withholding claim for any Haitian seeking relief from going back to Haiti, to their homeland. The fact that there might be pockets of Haiti where there's higher crime rates, guess what? There's pockets of Chicago with crime rates just as high. It has never been the case that having communities that have high crime rates is a basis for asylum. Never has been, never will be.
This is the real kicker. Nobody wants to admit that there are areas of our country that are just as dangerous as the conditions that we're being told are so terrible. Nobody should live in some of these other countries, and those conditions exist in these sanctuary cities like New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles. This is wild. And what are the requirements for temporary protected status? Anyone can go look them up who cares to do so, and they're pretty simple. Ongoing armed conflict like a civil war, an environmental disaster like the earthquake that affected Haiti, or some other temporary condition. There is no permanent condition that qualifies a country for a temporary relocation program. You see that? That would make the temporary program permanent because the condition at home would never change, which is how we're being sold on this whole thing. We're being told that because things are not perfect in Haiti, this program should continue to be extended. But this poses a unique problem for places like New York City that have built themselves on a foundation of lawlessness and sanctuary laws that go against the laws of the federal government and the country as a whole. And there are now entire areas of New York City that could change drastically overnight if the people affected by this TPS change obey the law and do the right thing. Look at this.
Keeping the stove and lights on is becoming a lot harder for John Haitian restaurant executive chef Wesley Jean Simon after he says sales dropped 60% after he had to let 8 of his 13 employees go. After the Supreme Court ruled that the Trump administration could end the Temporary Protected Status Program, or TPS, for more than 350,000 Haitian immigrants nationwide, meaning that after midnight they will lose their work permits, become undocumented, and have to either go into hiding or self-deport themselves.
Half those guys is basically have family and friends and people that take care of Haiti and have no income, and some of them are actually scared of leaving their house.
That's crazy.
Simon and another manager are now working 14 shifts weekly, he says, to cover the lost workers. But it's not just here.
Nobody is outside, the majority of people out there.
So areas of New York City, America's largest sanctuary city, are now a complete ghost town. And this is one of the issues with extending a temporary humanitarian aid program indefinitely, while at the same time telling people that, hey, when this program ends, since we're a sanctuary city, we'll actually help you stay here in violation of the law. You create situations like this where the streets are empty, where businesses can't survive, where you have business owners who are now working 14 shifts because they thought it was perfectly acceptable to hire people who might have to leave the country at any moment, and they built their whole business on that, and now it's evaporating. The customers are gone, the employees are gone. This is wild. And as you're about to see, it's not just these local businesses in New York City on Nostrand Avenue that are having to let people go. Look at this. The city just had to fire a whole bunch of workers, and the mayor is blaming the president for this, while running a sanctuary city that tells people if they're here illegally, hey, no big deal, stick around, we got your back.
Very similar to the conditions that led to the authorization of TPS, who have made the city their life. And for us in this moment to tell Haitian New Yorkers who have made the city their life for years that they have to go back to that, it is terrifying to imagine what might be waiting for them there. And we're also talking about Haitian New Yorkers who have been truly at the heart of so many of the industries that power this city. Healthcare, construction, hospitality, city workers, so many different aspects that without which we wouldn't have the city that we have today.
That's crazy.
And we also wanted to make sure that we only took this action at the point at which it was legally required to do so, because this is not an action that we want to take in any which way or form.
So, what's interesting about this is we've got a couple of weird things at play here. We've got a massive affordability crisis and a job crisis in New York City. So one way to look at this recent firing by the city of workers who just lost their legal status in the country is that there are now open positions that people who are here with legal status will be able to take advantage of while they try to pay their $6,000 a month apartment rents and buy their groceries. But the thing is, none of this had to happen. We didn't have to put people who were in this country in this situation at all. Had America just done the right thing at the beginning and enforced its own laws, if you're gonna have a temporary program and then you're gonna extend it for 15 years, of course you're gonna have to go through a process. That is not an easy process. Of course, you're going to be disrupting businesses, disrupting communities, but that's the whole reason this was extended. This was extended because you have people that want to see America open its border. And it was extended under the justification that things are not perfect in some of these other countries. Therefore, we should allow people to live here for another 10 years. And then when it's finally time to do something about it, you have conditions that exist now that make it harder to enforce the law, which were never there 18 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever. And that's why this whole thing is such a mess. It's a mess on purpose. And the blame for that doesn't lie at the feet of those who were enforcing laws that expired 15 years ago, unfortunately.
A neighbor of ours is illegal.
Tonight, hundreds of Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio are being summoned to DHS for in-person check-ins and to be fitted for ankle monitors if they don't choose to self-deport. It's one of the department's first moves since the Supreme Court ruled in June to end TPS for nearly 350,000 Haitian migrants. The Department of Homeland Security taking to X today to remind Americans that TPS is meant to be just that, temporary. Those with terminated TPS have two options: leave or be removed.
I don't like seeing this, but you know what? The person wearing that ankle monitor did the right thing. They're not trying to be a fugitive in America. But whose fault is it that they have to wear an ankle monitor? Whose fault is it that they have now committed themselves to life in this country on a permanent basis when they were brought here because of a temporary program? That's the fault of the people that extended it. That's the fault of the people that said, hey, we're going to try to let you stay here forever. Hey, we got sanctuary cities. Hey, we got resources. We're going to help you get attorneys so you can fight this thing. I mean, the fact that people are here and are in this line and are trying to do the right thing, and the fact that it looks as awful as it looks, let's be honest here, is not the fault of Trump.
In particular, in the case of the Haitians, the Biden administration flew over vast numbers. It's hard to know the exact number, but probably more than 1 million illegal immigrants from Haiti. That's not counting the border crossings into the United States.
This is the fault of the sanctuary politicians and the people that want to reopen America's border however they can, because their goal is to have communism descend upon our country and to have people vote that into office in just a few months. And the idea that people would be sent out of America right when they're trying to take it over is absolutely repulsive to these communists who orchestrated this whole thing to begin with and who have orchestrated our entire affordability crisis to begin with. But things are getting even worse for New York City. Look at this.
No hustling and bustling. There's no more.
Over at Maimonides Medical Center, healthcare workers are outraged.
As a nurse, I know our hospitals are already facing a staffing shortage. We are still recovering from the devastation impact of COVID-19.
Let me be unequivocal. Haitians will always be welcomed here in this city.
Brooklyn Councilwoman Alexa Alvarez is one of the many elected officials, like New York State Attorney General Letitia James, making their voices heard.
Really?
This is not justice. This is cruelty.
So New York's Attorney General, who's great at justice when it comes to Trump, doesn't understand that when a temporary program expires, nothing illegal has occurred, nothing cruel has occurred, but this is the preaching we get from people who want to see America change in ways that have never been possible and won't be possible if these programs are treated as they are supposed to be. If these temporary programs are allowed to expire, and if the laws of this country are upheld, these people don't think they can get their way, and that's why they're so upset about it. They don't care about people who are here. They're out there making statements like, oh, Haitians will always be welcome in New York. Who said people from any country weren't welcome in New York? Their insinuation is that there's something wrong going on here, but the reality is everyone's welcome in New York. everyone's welcome in America. It's just we have laws that dictate who's here and who's not, and we have an immigration system. Listen to this.
Temporary and not permanent.
It's the right call. You know, I've been doing this since 1984. TPS has never been temporary.
Yeah.
That's why the whole statute exists. Temporarily give people protection while the country's in turmoil or after they suffer a hurricane.
Yep.
The problem is no administration have had the guts to actually follow that statute. President Trump has the guts to follow the law. So temporary means temporary. When the condition of that country gets better, they need to go home. There are millions of people standing in line want to be a part of the greatest nation on earth. And that goes back to my early point. People say, why you arrest them if they're not criminally under 10 years? Because they cheated the system. They may have been here 10 years, so let's remember, when you enter the country illegally, it's a crime, and they're doing that, putting themselves in front of the line while millions of people are taking their tests, doing their background investigation, paying their fees to be part of the greatest nation on earth. So temporary means temporary, and I'm grateful for that decision.
So here's the other part of this. We want to talk about things like justice and cruelty. Where's the justice for people who are doing things the right way? Where's the justice for people that have all their paperwork and they're waiting in line to go through their background checks and come into America legally in the way our laws already dictate? What about the cruelty inflicted on those individuals when their cases get delayed because we've reopened the U.S. border and now there's no resources to help people do it the right way? How are we not going to stick up for the law-abiding who are suffering the cruelty that exists when a country decides to pursue lawlessness, which just makes people's lives less affordable? I'm so glad that he brought that up, but this isn't something anybody in New York wants to hear. Look.
Humanitarian concerns. The U.S. State Department currently urges Americans not to travel there under any circumstances due to rampant violence involving criminal gangs. In a statement to CBS News, the Department of Homeland Security said it does not discuss ongoing or future operations, but argue that TPS has been used as a, quote, de facto amnesty program, and suggested that those set to lose their status should self-deport now. Meanwhile, a spokesperson for the mayor's office says the city is offering Haitian and Syrian migrant support by connecting those families with free and confidential legal help.
So the city of New York says, look, we got a program that has existed much past its expiration date. We, as socialists that want an open border, disagree with this program. So you know what? We're going to fire the people that we hired who were part of that program. But now we're going to go pay for them to stay here. We're going to pay for them to have attorneys if they want to fight this thing. And we're going to pull out all the stops during an affordability crisis for people that are in our city and are trying to make it and are here with legal permission. Think about that for a second. New York seems to have plenty of money as long as it's not for things that help the law-abiding or fund their own police department. They got plenty of money for everything else somehow.
We told people from the beginning this was truly, honestly about the whitening of this country. This was clearly against black and brown communities, black and brown immigrants.
No. This is such a ludicrous statement by the public advocate here. I mean, here he is talking about how New York and how America are totally biased against certain people based on where they're from. I mean, that couldn't be further from the truth. If your temporary protected status ends, no matter which country you're from, this also includes Syria, this includes countries like Venezuela, their status expired a few years ago. I mean, we hear the same arguments from people every single time about why this stuff needs to be extended. And the goal here is to get you, the viewer, to say, yeah, this is wrong. Yeah, we should just keep these temporary programs going forever so that they can, by proxy, get their amnesty initiative. That's what this is really about. This isn't about caring for people that are actually from Haiti. If people in New York that are out there really cared about folks that are from Haiti, what are they doing for all the legal residents in New York that are from Haiti? There's a lot of New Yorkers that are from Haiti that are here legally. What are they doing to help those people? Because you know what? Those people are going to be stuck here with the $6,600 a month rent. Those people are going to be stuck here with the inability to find good jobs in New York because all the businesses are leaving because nobody wants to get punished for starting a company here in New York. And if you're working at a grocery store, good luck. That might not last too much longer because after the city builds its free grocery stores, your business is going to be out of business. So I would love to hear from these New Yorkers that want to talk about justice and cruelty, what they're actually doing for the people that remain. And you know, at the other end of this spectrum, there was just a natural disaster in Venezuela. It was an earthquake, just like the natural disaster that took place in Haiti. These are both tragic. But what is the U.S. doing in Venezuela? Did we reenact temporary protected status for Venezuela? No. Instead, the U.S. sent humanitarian aid, sent the military over there, sent food, sent medical aid. The U.S. is stabilizing Venezuela. The U.S. is maintaining law and order in Venezuela and helping the Venezuelan people rebuild their country so that they can get it back up and running as quickly as possible. That's going to be a better system. It's going to be a more affordable system, and it's going to get rapid results compared to telling people that live in Venezuela, hey, just evacuate your country and come over here for a while and maybe things will work itself out. I mean, that's what temporary protected status is. And you've got critics that say, hey, this is not even the right way to do things. What do you think the right way to do this is? Let me know. I will see you in the next video.